prior Leaving Cert students and creating a level playing field for them and ensuring that they're not disadvantaged under the predicted grade scheme is really important. I know that you've said that there's extra places, and I very much welcome that. Now, you mentioned 5,000 that would be created, but going on the department's predictions of what would be needed even before COVID, when the report was done in 2018, it was predicted that we would need an additional over 4,000 places by 2020. So I'd ask you, did you take that, and did you take other factors into account in creating the level playing field that's needed?
Yeah, look, I was very grateful to Deputy Conway-Walsh for wanting to transfer questions to highlight this issue, because I know it's a very important and very timely matter. Obviously, this year has been a year like no other. It's a year in which we had a Leaving Cert class who couldn't do a Leaving Cert exam. And I think at every twist and turn, everybody in this House and everybody across society has wanted to see a system as fair as possible put in place to protect the integrity of the Leaving Cert, but also to make sure we could have a pathway for as many people as possible to move on from school and into college. And that wasn't always guaranteed if you didn't come up with some system. Many people in this House, I think yourself included, would have rightly called for the removal of the school profiling piece of the standardisation, and that's happened, and that will have a knock-on effect on grade inflation. But that school profiling piece did need to be removed. So what can we do as a government? Well, we'd already increased the number of places for higher education in the budget by just over 2,000, I think 2,700. On top of that, we had funded 1,415 additional places at key skills needs in areas of the economy: ICT, engineering and science. You'll remember last week I received government approval for 1,250 extra college places, and what we did was, rather than trying to decide in the Dáil or in government where to direct them, we asked the HEIs themselves to identify their high demand courses, and if they had the capacity or the flexibility to allocate those additional places to match those high demand courses. And I know that was welcomed across the board. I have been working in the last few days to see if it's in any way possible to create more capacity even at this stage, and I am very pleased this morning to inform the Deputy that through the engagement we've had with the HEA and all the institutions, I am now in a position to confirm that there will be a further 800 additional college places on top of the 1,250 we announced last week. So I do hope this will go some way to relieving pressure. Be clear, I expect points to rise. Higher grades will result in higher points. There's no two ways around that. But the most practical, sensible thing we can do is try and provide as many places as possible. And I really do want to thank all the institutions, universities around the country for their leadership in relation to this, because as Deputy Kearns has said, this is not an easy time to be asking people to create more places in a COVID environment. But I do hope this is welcome news to many.
Yes, Minister, that is indeed an extra 800 places is welcome, and I hope it will go some way towards alleviating the anxiety that people are feeling today of the prior Leaving Cert students. I do think it's a pity that we've left it to such a late stage, because I think these students have had months of anxiety. I know I was first contacted in June about this, and I think we must never let this happen again. I do want to acknowledge the third level institutions and what they're doing to try and facilitate what needs to be done here. I would ask you, should we be in the situation on Friday or Monday that those extra places haven't alleviated that, could we consider some of the other points that I and my colleague Donna O'Leary have put forward? I know you said that there were some legal issues around some of those suggestions. I suppose I know I have written to you separately to ask for clarification of that of that legal advice, particularly in relation to seeing if we could have the prior Leaving Cert students assessed on the points that were required in the year that they did their Leaving Cert. Thank you.
Very much acknowledge your constructive engagement on this issue, and that of Deputy O'Leary as well. I have looked at all of the options, because this year calls for us to look at absolutely everything we can possibly do. The clear advice available to me, and I am happy to write to you on this, Deputy, is that the ring fencing of places is legally fraught. For a whole variety of reasons, principally on the basis that if a 2020 student missed out versus 2019, and there's a whole lot of issues in relation to that, the idea of recalculating grades to bring 2019 in line with 2020, again, doesn't work, because the 4.4% figure is an average figure. It doesn't mean everybody in 2020 rose by 4.4%, as we know. So the clearer legal and policy advice available to me was that the most logical, sensible thing to do, based on my engagement with the institutions, was to increase the number of places. Let's be honest though, every single year, people who apply to the CEO from all different years Many are happy and get their first place. I expect more people to get their top preferences this year than any other year. But we also know it's a day of disappointment for other people. And I think what all of us in this house need to say is that there are many pathways to get to where you want to. And I would encourage people to have their plan A for Friday, but also have your plan B. If I don't get my choice, what else might I like to do in this year? And there are many options out there. Talk to a teacher, talk to a guidance counsellor, and get that good advice.
Like yourself, I would encourage people to look at all the pathways that are there. What I'm concerned about is the students who are contacting me as well, who went through all the options last year. So I had one, for instance, who had got 517 points. He had to have his grades re-looked at. By the time he did, he was too late for a college place this year. So I find, in one sense, that it's those students who have really worked the hardest and given the highest level of commitments that were disappointed last year, that felt sure that they were going to be getting those places this year. And I am concerned about the mental health and indeed the physical health of these students. So we must together do everything that we possibly can to alleviate that and facilitate it. And we also must be looking to the class of 2021, ensuring that these things that we have learned from this year and that these things never happen again.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what the deputy said. I mean, let's hope this year never has to happen again. It's been an extraordinary year that no one could predict. I very much welcome what you said, because there has been an effort by some, not by you at all, but there's been an effort by some to perhaps pit one year group against the other. That, you know, every student, every year group has had a really difficult impact as a result of this pandemic. The class of 2020 have had a rotten year. The people from 2019 are now concerned. There's been an anxiety and a stress for everybody. And what we're all trying to do is, as best we can, try and alleviate that, accepting that every single year there will be students who are disappointed that they don't get their choice. But equally, all of us saying that you may get a second choice or a third choice, and there's always ways of moving from one choice to the other choice. So try and get yourself into the system would be my very strong advice. I noted that over 15,000 people last year applied for health and welfare courses. 5,700 or 5,800, I think, got places. So every year people apply for the first choice and may not get it. Some of those who accept their second choice go on to having the career that they wanted. So there are always ways to get to where you want to, but we're continuing to do all we can to maximise the capacity. But I do need to be honest, we're now very much at the outer limits of the additional capacity I believe we can add to the system for this year with the additional 800 today.